I want to take a closer look at this John Roberts decision, this amazing pro-abortion decision. I don't know what else to call it, because it's actually a bad decision. I mean, it was 5-4. What happened was that there was a Louisiana requirement that abortion clinics have admitting privileges at a hospital for the women in case something went wrong. Now, they do this with they do that with LASIK surgery. I mean, even if you have LASIK surgery, a lot of places you have to have admitting privileges at a hospital in case something goes wrong. You can get the person into a hospital right away. So they wanted the same thing for an abortion. Now, this was a law, by the way, passed by a pro-life Democrat, the pro-life governor, and it wasn't women who said anything about it. It was the abortion clinics themselves. They said this was an undue burden on them, right? So 4 years ago, a different court majority overturned a similar statute in Texas with Justice Anthony Kennedy as the guy who joined the 4 liberals. Justice Roberts said that case was wrongly decided at the time. John Roberts said that case was wrongly decided. But in this case, he said, because that case was wrongly decided the way it was, this case had to be decided the same way because of precedent, right? So it's 4 years later, this precedent is now just embedded in Anglo-American law. It is now the bedrock. 4 years ago, they made a decision that John Roberts thought was wrong. And yesterday, he comes out and he says, even though that decision was wrong, it's now right because it is the precedent. That's literally what he said. Now, it's even worse than this because nobody on the court, except for Clarence Thomas, no one on the court said that Roe v. Wade was endangered. Only Clarence Thomas said that, and I'll read what he said in a minute. Actually, I'll read what he said now. He said the plurality and Chief Justice John Roberts cast aside this jurisdictional barrier to conclude that Louisiana's law is unconstitutional under our precedents. But those decisions created the right to abortion out of whole cloth without a shred of support from the Constitutional's text. Our abortion precedents are grievously wrong and should be overruled. But he's the only one who said that. And everyone else was saying, well, this is an undue burden on women trying to get an abortion. So really, it does not seem to me, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not positive of this, but it does not seem to me that Roe v. Wade, which is one of the worst decisions the court ever made, it's up there with Dred Scott. And it's not just bad because of what it says, that it invents. First, they invented a right to privacy. And actually, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, there are rights that are not in the Constitution. There's the right to travel state to state. That's not mentioned in the Constitution. But we have a right to travel state to state. And I think there is a right to privacy implied in the Constitution. I'm not sure. We make fun of that a lot because that's when they started talking about emanations and the penumbras and all this stuff. But, there are rights in the Constitution that are not enumerated. The Constitution is supposed to enumerate the powers of the federal government, but there can be implied rights. So that we shouldn't be afraid of that. But they're basically rights to be left alone. The right to be able to speak is the right to not be bothered while you're speaking. The right to worship is to not be prevented from worshiping. There's so many, all the rights in the Constitution are negative rights that are mentioned, right? And so I think there is a right to be left alone, to not be spied on, to not have the government put a camera in your bedroom or in your house or anywhere where they can watch you. I mean, I think that there is a right to privacy. How that right to privacy strips the fetus, the unborn child, of a right to life, that's where they lose me. That's where they lose me. I always think we're fighting the wrong fight on this. That's where they lose me. I do not understand why a right to privacy, an implied right to privacy, because even though the right to association is not in the Constitution, it's implied. An implied right to privacy, how that strips an unborn child of his rights, I simply do not know. So it's a really bad decision all around because nobody except Thomas, who is a man in full, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but no one except him stood up against Roe v. Wade. But what Roberts did is an extraordinary act of emptiness. To say that a wrongly decided decision from 4 years ago is now so embedded in law that I have to stick with it. Here's John Kennedy, who's always great for sound bites. He's from Louisiana, Senator John Kennedy. Here's his comment on it.
The Chief Justice today joined with the 4 liberals on the court to strike down Louisiana's statute. 4 years ago, in a case out of Texas, same statute, same issue, the Chief Justice voted with the conservatives. Today, he voted with the liberals. He changed his vote. He flip-flopped. He flip-flopped like a banked catfish. And that's why I say the process worries me as much as the result. This is why so many people think that our federal courts, our federal judges have become nothing but politicians in robes.
Well, I think there's a really good argument for that they've become politicians. And that's really what I want to talk about, John Roberts. This is what I'm talking about conservatism. Really, since the Reagan era, conservatism has centered on capitalism. And there was some sense in that in the Reagan era when we were fighting communists. So we were the capitalists, they were the communists, and we were kind of defined by our enemies. But it has become gutted of meaning. And I know we love capitalism, and I love capitalism, and I think it's a great system. And I don't even think it is a system. I think it's just fair trade. It's just trading with people. It's just what people naturally do. And it's wonderful. But it's obviously, just like any ism, without values, it's nothing. Without a structure of values, it's nothing. It is not conservatism to be a capitalist. It is not conservatism to be a libertarian to the point where you don't understand that some values have to be in place to remain in order for freedom to remain. Look how quickly our freedoms are being eroded. They're being eroded while we speak. People are being fired from their jobs for speaking their mind. People are in danger for speaking their mind. People are committing acts of vandalism while governors and mayors nod and say, oh, well, it's a fair expression of anger, right? Look how empty this is. John Roberts, now people are always speculating about his motives, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to speculate about his motives. But the one thing I can say that's not speculation is he can't possibly believe what he wrote in this opinion. He can't possibly believe that a wrongly decided decision from 4 years ago is strong enough precedent that stare decisis kicks into place, and forever after, that's the way these cases have to be decided. That he can't possibly believe that. No rational person could possibly believe that. After all, there used to be laws permitting slavery. Where are they? They're gone. There used to be laws protecting children, the lives of children. Where are they? Things can be reversed. Important decisions can be reversed. Important precedents can be reversed. This is a nothing precedent, just something, as I say, that applies to people who have LASIK surgery. Why shouldn't it apply to people who have an abortion, that they have admitting rights? Maybe it was a tactic. It probably was a tactic to help the pro-life forces. But still, that doesn't mean that John Roberts believes what he said. And it's part of a pattern. This is part of a pattern on the way he acts, right? He is the guy who said that the insurance mandate was a tax, even in Obamacare, where they taxed you for not buying insurance. So the government suddenly had the right to fine you. They had the right to fine you for not doing something. Oh, you didn't go out and get exercise. That's going to be bad for your health. We're fining you for that. Once the government has that power, they have the power to force you to do anything they want. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Andrew Klavan Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all our future content.